Best of the Week, guys. We are here with Jeff from Chopped Guitars out in Manchester by the Sea, Massachusetts. Jeff, you make wild shit, man. That looks unreal. And I've seen some of your videos, and it also sounds awesome, too. So, Steve, take it from here, man. Thank you very much for being with us.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah, man. Appreciate you being here. So, obviously you'll go into a little bit more detail, but it looks like you're building guitars out of, old cases and things like that. So how did Chopped Guitars all start? What led you to this?
Yeah, well, I've been collecting guitars since I was a little kid. Probably started around age 9 collecting. And by the time I got to college, I had like 20-something guitars that...
Yeah, we know that.
as a lot of you guys, I'm sure, did. And none of them were particularly nice guitars. They were kind of, you're in college, you buy like $100 this or $75 that, or, every now and then you get lucky and get something for $250, something like that. But, none of them were great. And I decided it was time. I was actually, after college, playing full time. I was doing the après ski thing, playing the 3-4 hour cover gigs all over the place.
Cool.
Trying to make the original thing happen, but it was mostly covers at that point. Mm-hmm. And I was probably around 23, 24 at the time. And I decided to sell all those guitars, like 20-something guitars. And I made enough money off that to buy 2 original Gibsons from the 60s. I bought an ES-125, it was a 1960, and a 63, I believe, LGO acoustic.
Yeah, I had an LGO I had a couple LGOs. LGOs are nice.
Yeah, they were great. Great little guitar. And I those were my only 2 guitars, and I brought them out to a gig one night. I played the gig, and I do loadout as you do. I put them in the car, went back to get my PA, and they were gone. So after owning 20 plus guitars, I was down to 0 guitars very soon. And I still had one left. It was a guitar my mom gave me. That's from 1980. So she had it forever, and then she gave it to me. So I still have that one. But that's not like a gig guitar. That's a sit in your bedroom and don't take it out of the bedroom guitar. And I had a Mexican Strat left over that was not very nice. I just happened to keep it because it was my first electric. And my buddy said, "You know what? Forget about losing your guitars. Forget about this getting stolen. Just make one. See what happens." And I thought he was kidding, and I kind of thought about it. I started reading about it, read tutorials, read all the technical books you could find at the time, and I tried. And I made a homemade one out of my Strat. I ripped it apart, and then I kind of just got obsessed with it after that. So it was sort of out of necessity at the time because I really didn't have a guitar to play shows with, and then it turned into more of just an obsession. So.
Huh.
Yeah.
So how long were you that process from when you started to rip that out to when you had a finished guitar? I mean, how long was that? Did it take you to sort of nail down what you were doing?
I mean, I didn't know a lot of technical stuff at the time. I didn't know about intonation really. I didn't know about bridge placement and how to get the nut the right height and saddle, work and all that. But the guitar happened to work, and it happened to stay in tune fairly well. So I think, I've been building for about 14 years, and only in the last 2, I feel like I really started to get it.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So I would say a good 10 plus 12 years before I think I figured it out for myself, the best way to do it for myself. Not maybe the right way to do it, but the best way for me to do it.
Yeah. Right. So then kind of with that, once you got that first one out of the way, how did it progress from there? You said you kind of got obsessed with it, but then what were sort of the next steps in the evolution?
Yeah, so the first Strat I made was out of the Strat body. I literally cut the body up and made it fit inside a clarinet case. So I took a Strat body and I literally just squared it off, like cut off the the rounded parts, made it square, and literally placed it inside of a body. Because I was really more interested in it looking cool than anything.
That happens.
Yeah. And then I started saying to myself, maybe I don't need to use a guitar body. Maybe I can just build a frame inside of a case,
Yeah.
like a clarinet case, and use the case itself as the body. And so that was the progression of learning how to take less stock stuff that was already pre-made and do more of my own making as I went.
Yeah.
And to the point now where they're pretty much made from scratch minus the neck. I'm not shaping necks or anything on my own.
Sure.
But yeah, it was definitely a progression, and they got better in the intonation. I figured out these cases are, the wood in these cases they're generally really thin, and they don't hold a lot of, they flex, and some of them, a lot of clarinet cases are made out of cardboard even. So it was a way figuring out a way to like stabilize the body and making it strong enough to hold the guitar. So yeah, it took a while, and I think again only in the last couple of years I really kind of figured that part of it out really well.
Yeah, and I assume probably lots of trial and error, kind of figuring out what works, what doesn't.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember one of the first like homemade ones I made where I was doing the case frame. It was the neck angle that was killing me. Like I couldn't. I would wind up with a finished guitar all strung up, and the action was like 2 inches off the ball. Like
yeah, neck angle matters.
yeah. So that was like really trying to like dial in, low action playable. So I think it morphed. The whole progression more from trying to look cool more than anything else. Not only that, but on stage, the whole plan was to like use these guitars for like a song.
Yeah.
You like grab your go-to guitar for your show, and then you like grab the cool looking one. You play one song, people think it's neat, and then you're like, yeah, I made that thing, whatever. And so the progression really went from that to using those for 3 or 4 hour cover gigs, and not having to tune them at all.
Yeah.
That was sort of the goal. It was to use these full time. They have to sound good, they have to play well, and they have to stay in tune.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So with guitars, obviously sounds, it's very subjective, but it's incredibly important. So what are you looking for in parts? What do you want these guitars to sound like when they're done?
That's a good question. So some of these that I made originally too, I did a lot of acoustic guitars, a lot of acoustic bass guitars, and I found that sometimes the PAs sounded pretty interesting in these wooden bodies. Mm-hmm. They would be a unique acoustic guitar sound. And then I started to realize that if I wanted these things to be long-term players or like full show players, I probably had to go with magnetic pickups and focus more on the strings than the 75-year-old cardboard body that they were in. The resonance in a cardboard body isn't terrific. So I switched over probably a while back to using, for acoustic guitars anyway, to using magnetic pickups. I was using a lot of LR bags, the M1As. Mm-hmm. Those are almost a little too much for the guitar because those pick up a lot of body sound as well, and you can hear the handle on the clarinet case and the hinges. You can hear them move. So they're cool, but they pick up almost too much sound. And then only really in the last couple of years, especially in the last 2 years, I started really getting passionate about electric guitars again. And I started focusing on building electrics. And I was using a lot of vintage parts, vintage pickups. And in the last year, I decided to start reaching out to some custom boutique builders and trying to make some. This is another part of the evolution. Instead of going all vintage everything, going vintage look and feel, but using handmade parts.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
I assume probably gives you a little bit more consistency too, so you can maybe use the same thing over and over. So. Exactly.
Yeah. The most recent build I just finished up, I used a Lambertone Blondie in the neck and a Gemini Supercaster in the bridge, and I think those guys actually connected to make sure that they worked together, which was super cool. So it was like a nice collaboration between a couple of different, makers doing one guitar. So that was neat. Yeah.
And I assume you're still a one-man show, right? So you're the guy making all these by hand.
Yeah, I am. I have a very good friend of mine from college, one of my best friends. He has been a luthier at Fayette Guitars. Are you familiar with Fayette in New York?
No, I'm not.
Yeah. They're out of, I want to say the Schenectady area, maybe. central, kind of northern central New York. They make beautiful guitars. Veillettete. And so he's like a luthier. Doing from scratch work. So he and I spoke, and we were trying to collaborate on some stuff. So I sent him a couple of clarinet cases and a neck, and I'm going to see what he does and how he puts it together. I'll be really curious.
Awesome. So are clarinet cases your case of choice for building a guitar out of?
Yeah, I think all of them have been clarinet cases, just because dimensionally they're probably the most similar to a guitar.
Yeah.
From a width standpoint, they don't kick your arm out too far.
Right.
Yeah, just from it's probably the size of like a Strat body, most of them, and they're all different shapes. Some are long and thin, some are tall and fat, but they're all pretty much relatively the same.
Awesome. Silly question, but your guitars are made out of cases, and they generally have handles on them. So are there cases that go along with these guitars, or how do you handle that part of it?
That is a very good question. If they fit in a case, I will put them in a case. When I used to, are you familiar with the NACA tour, the college conference touring, where you play colleges all over the league? Yeah, I used to do that a lot. So I was on airplanes quite a bit, and they I would bring a regular guitar case, put the suitcase guitar in it, put my underwear and socks in it.
Yeah.
And then, and then fill the gaps of the case with other clothes. So I really didn't have to bring like a bag. I could kind of fit everything in the case, which was nice. But traveling through the airports, man, these things are like. One time I was in Texas, and a U.S. Marshal pulled me out of line. I didn't know he was a marshal because he had just jeans and a white T-shirt on, like he was plain clothes. And he pulled me out of line, and he said, "You need to come with me." And he took me around to the back side of like the TSA security area where they look at the X-rays. And he goes, "Look at that." And I go, "Okay." He goes, "Do you think that looks normal?" And it was a guitar with batteries. Well, it was a suitcase with clarinet case, but it looked like a suitcase with batteries and wires and everything in it. And he goes, "You got to tell me what this is, because." He's like, "You're about to go to jail." Like, it looked like a bomb. I mean, literally. And I picked it up and I showed it to him, and I guess he played a little. He started playing it. He thought it was cool. He let me go. He was mostly joking with me, but it was like I was terrified.
Okay.
Yeah.
I would be too, man. That's what do you think is the next step, and where do you see this going in the future?
The last, I was always making these for myself. I was always playing them. I was always the one playing them. I was never selling them. A good friend of mine, Chad Ermson from Dispatch, he was the only one who had ever really been playing these. He has like 3 of them at the house now, and we talk every few weeks to a month or so and talk about maybe making a new one or getting one custom just for him the way he likes it. And so he's really been my only like quote unquote client, but I was never selling them to him really. I was always just letting him take them on the road, and then he'd take it for a year and give it back to me and take a new one out, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So this year was the first year I ever really put like a brand behind it. It was never called Chop Guitars before. There's actually a luthier named Scott Conley, who makes beautiful acoustic guitars, and he already owned ConleyGuitars.com. So I was like, I gotta come up with something different. So I went with Chopped. Because it's kind of like Chopper's motorcycle that you put together. I started making T-shirts at home and hats, and really kind of put a brand behind it. And I'm selling some stuff. I've sold a couple of guitars this year, but even that process is not something I really care that much about.
Gotcha.
That's a whole other can of worms that you got to deal with, and shipping, and all that crap. So, I do want to expand, like grow the brand, but I'm not sure the best way to do that if I don't want to sell things that much. So I don't. That's a tough call. Yeah.
Gotcha. Ready for the speed round?
Okay.
All right. So this. So, like like I said, if you haven't seen the other ones, I mean, we'll give you two choices. You got to pick one.
Okay.
So, P90 or humbucker?
P90.
AC30 or JTM 45?
Oh, JTM 45.
Deluxe reverb or a Tweed Deluxe?
Deluxe reverb.
A cranked amp or an overdrive pedal?
Ooh, cranked amp.
All right. Strat or Telly?
Telly.
Dunkin' or Starbucks?
Duncan.
I can tell you're from Massachusetts.
Yeah.
Rosewood or Maple?
Maple.
Bigsby, yes or no?
Not for me.
Not for you. All right. And the most important, boots or sneakers?
Boots.
All right. That's what we got there for the speed round.
Cool. Thanks, man.
All right. Jeff, thank you so much for doing this, man. This was great.
Yeah, I appreciate it. No, that was fun. Thanks, guys.
Do you have any questions for us? Anything else you want to add?
Just curious where I can check it out.
The YouTube page. There's a link in the Instagram.
Okay.
I have all that stuff.
Right on. Yeah. Send me over your addresses. I'll send you guys a chopped hat.
Cool, man.
Awesome, man. Thank you very much.
Yeah, you got it.
All right. Thanks so much, and hey, I'll talk to you later, buddy.
All right. Thanks, guys.